Didi, thank you again for giving us so much time. Congratulations, first of all, for the new government and your new position.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's already been, you're already down to business. We've seen a lot of celebration, and it's lovely to see the people out in the street, the president, former presidents. It doesn't happen in any other country. But you're already down to business. Cabinet meetings have been held. You have held briefings. How is your new job moving?
It's moving well, in the sense, like, you know, I get a lot of help from the ministry as well. They are professional people here who they've also learned to deal with the changing circumstances, I suppose. They know that every 5 years we may stay, we may go, you know, but the institution remains, the ministry remains, the civil service remains, and everything else remains. So what we are trying to do is deliver our mandate, what we brought with our manifesto to the people, and then to deliver, as I say. That's my main aim.
When we spoke to you just after the election results were initially announced, it was still unclear what would really happen. But when we talked about the friction or the iciness between the regimes in Maldives and India, you mentioned in particular the helicopters, which you have been talking about even since then, and you were talking about how 164 Maldivians had been saved. So what was the need to in any way return the gift?
Yeah, you're right about it. You know, we in Maldives, we've traditionally also not been people who return gifts to our neighbors. You know, that's not in us. We also have a tradition, we have culture, and there are nice ways of doing things. And I'm sure we can find many ways of cooperating with each other and doing so many things. Not only the helicopters, you know, in 2008 we moved, our people said they wanted a democratic society here. You know, we moved to democracy, rule of law. We have to have a disciplined force. They have to do their work despite the politics. You know, the politics happens on one side. The forces do their job regardless. You know, it may be me, it might be my predecessor, Adan Sharif, it can be anybody. But that shouldn't matter to them. And what we see is our neighbors, India, is the world's largest democracy. They have huge security forces, but they're not politicized. You know, they do their work as per the law, and they deliver, and it doesn't matter. It can be Modi one day, it can be a Congress party the other day, it can be smaller parties, coalition one day, but the forces, they are professional, they do things in accordance with the law. So I'm sure we can learn a lot. Indian Army is an old army, in the sense, I'm not talking about the age of the people there, I'm talking about the age of the institution and the professionalism of the institution. And I'm sure we can learn a lot from your army about how they operate in a democratic society. This is what we gave as a mandate to the people, and this is what we want to do. Right now, I mean, the other day, even in our inaugural speech, our president said that he wants to see our forces as a service that is loved by the people, that they accept the services of the people. The forces are presentable in a more people-friendly way, and we have to find ways of doing that. I totally agree that the forces themselves, they work very hard, they work for the people, they do rescue missions, they do many things for the ordinary person. The other day also, when there was a fire in Male also, they went there and they put out the fire. But we have not, there will be a lot of public gruntly mostly, you know, that it takes a long time for them, and why is it like that? But the forces have never come out and explained to the public, why it is late. The streets of Malé, so narrow, number one. The water hydrants not being there when they need it, So naturally they are doing a lot of work. The first thing for them is to rescue the people, then to put out the fire and all this sort of thing. I don't know, but they tell me. But when they tell me, I can understand. So what I'm saying is they should tell the people as well their difficulties, how they're doing, interface between the people. So I hope in our tenure during our 5 years that we are able to make the service more public friendly, that they learn that that we have rule of law, not rule of people, rule of man. It's not a rule of man, it's rule of law. And our governments are there because we are mandated by the constitution to be there. It's not any other thing that makes us stay here, and we stay and live our people's mandate, and we go when the people tell us to go.
When you're saying it's not just the helicopters, there's been a period of very frosty relations between President Yamin's government and India. Prime Minister Modi did not come to the Maldives, neither did the foreign minister. The moment there's been swearing in of President Solih, he accepted the invitation, he came. How do you see the transition from what India was treated as in the last 5 years and now? There's been already a huge change.
I think, it would have been very difficult for Prime Minister Modi to have come to see President Yamin then, because the philosophies of the government, where your ideology that you want people power, that you adhere to the needs of the people, that the democratic principles are there, that was being trampled upon in Maldives. So for him to come and be seen with the dictatorial regime that was that of President Yamin here would have been a very difficult situation for him, and it would have sent the wrong signal to those people in Maldives, the young, the old, the reformists who were aspiring to democracy and people power here. And the movement was built at a fast pace. We were seeing a lot of development here because of that, where we as a government were accountable to the people. The previous regime was accused by the public as being very corrupt. There was no accountability, transparency. There was the infringement of the executive on the judiciary and the parliament as well. So in that sort of situation, if Prime Minister Modi had come to the Maldives, we, the ordinary people, the reformists also, the majority of the Maldives, as we have shown in this election, would have been very disappointed. On the other hand, we were chuffed. We were very pleased, when he came for the inauguration of President Ibrahim Solih, because we saw that it was the right signal, that our neighbors were giving the signal that what we aspire to as a Maldives, we want to be perhaps we will be the world's smallest democracy. You're the largest, we are the smallest, but even though we are small as a country, with very less people, we still want the democratic principles to cultivate it and for it to grow as large as your democracy as well.
Excuse me. One of the signals also was that President Yamin was seen to be getting too close to China. President Solih himself has talked about the treasury being looted. There's a review going on now. How do you view and how is there going to be a change in what's happening now?
We have promised the people that our government will be transparent, will be accountable, we will not infringe on the powers of the other institutions, we will even pushed the independent institutions such as the ACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Human Rights Commission. We will not interfere with their decisions. We will facilitate them, in fact, and encourage them to do their job. And if we do that, we feel that there will be less corruption, there will be more human rights, this thing. And
what about the past? Will you already reviewing projects if there's any corruption in them?
If there is corruption found, then of course, it will have to take the normal legal recourse, and we will also want, if there are any funds and other things that have gone outside, we'll try to talk to these governments and other places and bring it into the country, because it belongs to the people. And we hope to have clean government during the next 5 years.
President Nasheed has gone on record to say possibly even the free trade agreement with China may be reviewed because it's so one-sided. Almost 99% of the bulk is Chinese exports and nothing is going out of the Maldives. Is that also something that you would be looking at? Has that been discussed in the cabinet?
We've just had one cabinet, and we've spoken about corruption, that corruption there'll be zero tolerance on corruption. So that's what we've discussed yesterday at cabinet. The Sunday was a holiday, a public holiday. Today's a holiday. Yesterday we had the cabinet, and I'm just working.
2 commissions have already been set up.
Yeah, 2 commissions to look into these things have been set up. It will work very independently from, they won't have political interference where the president tells them to do things. They have their independent mandate and they will go ahead with it.
Cooperation on the military-to-military front, which had been stalled because of President Yamin's administration, the helicopters he wanted returned, the men he wanted returned, that's something which you said will be reversed. But you also said you do need more interaction between the militaries of the 2 countries.
I think very soon, maybe during the course of next week, there'll be these Dosti exercises that have been... No, with India.
India, Sri Lanka and Maldives?
Yeah, and I think they are coming to the Maldives, and we will have this exercise in the next week as well. So the goodwill will be there. We hope to send our senior officers to India to learn how you all operate in a democratic society as a professional army.
So that would be a new aspect. It's not just military training. You are trying to depoliticize the army by learning lessons from...
we have always aspired to a depoliticized army. I don't know how, at the moment with President Yamin I think they have had to deal with too much politics, and that's not how we want our army to be. They should be professional.
Physically, India will be able to help in not necessarily training militarily your personnel, but also to learn how to not be involved in politics?
We are hoping to send our senior personnel to India to see how they operate in India as a professional army away from politics.
I also believe that there will be, if I'm not mistaken, in December, the 2 armies will be conducting exercises as well, or something.
That's the Dosti exercise. I think there's an equating and Dosti exercise which they do together, and I think they are having it as planned in the next week or so.
The Coast Guards, like I said, of Sri Lanka, Maldives and the Indian Coast Guard are also having exercises. Is there any other equipment that you would need, considering the vast area, that over 1,900 islands and atolls, the economic zone that you need to look at, fishing that you need to look at? Because straight away one of the decisions was that there should be no foreign permits for fishing, anti-piracy, anti-terrorism, drugs. There's such a vast area that needs to be covered. Do you need any more training and equipment from India?
Yes, of course. I think even in the joint statement they spoke about combating terrorism. There's maintenance of peace and security in the Indian Ocean region, so many things that we would like to do together, and I'm sure we are looking at a new era of more friendly relationship and ties with our neighbors.
For example, I had visited the Seychelles recently, and again, different countries, but some similar issues that have to be dealt with in terms of the area and the sea that has to be watched. India has gifted 2 Dawnia aircraft which are used for surveillance. Would you be looking for more equipment like that?
Yes, we would. The Dawnia aircraft, I think, there has been some initial discussions, so we shall look into it. We shall be looking for training of pilots as well from India. We have spoken about an air ambulance and medical evacuations by air, so we would be talking about it with India when our foreign minister visits India, and see how we can get those things also perhaps sorted out, and perhaps some aid to help us with these air evacuations as well, medical evacuations and medical air ambulance as well.
Which the 2 helicopters, as you have pointed out, have already saved about 164 lives. Now, the military, with its all services in India, is always on hand to help. But if I can see what's happening in the Maldives, they're actually going a little bit beyond their stretch of duty in helping the normal Maldivians. It's not just, it's a people-to-people contact.
We've had a very much people-to-people contact with India. I mean, till very recently, our families go and live in India for education as well. Yes, exactly, and Indians come and work in the Maldives. You know how we have a shortage of manpower, and they come and work in the Maldives as well. So there are so many things which we've had a symbiotic relationship with India, and there's no reason why we shouldn't help each other in these many areas, not only defense, but so many areas which could help. And India is now the second largest economy in Asia itself. India is developed. I can remember when in the late 70s, when I went to school in India, it was totally different. You didn't have even TV then in India. In fact, we got TV in Maldives before India. But now look at the amount of channels and the amount of TV series and all that. And in Maldives, one of the most popular series is Kasauti and things like this, When we campaign also, we make sure that we don't go into a house when Kasauti is on. So people follow these series. People have learned the Hindi language by looking at Hindi movies.
Exactly.
They're very good with the language of Hindi language as well. And Hindi songs, now even Tamil songs, Malayali songs, so there are many Maldivians who know Malayalam as well now. They've been in Kerala, in Trivandrum and all that, they've stayed there, so families know Malayalam as well. So I think there are so many things, and even in the tourism area like you have the southern tip of India, Kerala is a tourist place, so we can do so many partnerships together where India can become our development partner.
There already has been so much movement, even though you've had so little time in office, whether it's work permits for Indians or whether it's visas, whether it's military-to-military relations. But there has been a worry in New Delhi that President Yamin was going closer to China, and they would possibly culminate in even giving military naval facilities to the PLA Navy. Is that something that you're aware of, or is there something you have to reverse in direction?
I have only had one day in office, so I don't really know. I have to look at it. As you know, President Yamin's government was not media savvy. They never disclosed to the people, although they were discharging a function on behalf of the people. So we will have to look at it and see whether there's been any such arrangement or undertaking given. But with our government and with your government, what I know is, like, you know, India, you have to, whatever development aid or whatever projects you carry on, you have to be accountable to the people and transparent as well. So what happens is, with President Yamin's regime, there was so much allegations of corruption, there was allegations of money laundering, there was allegations of accountability, you know, being lacking in accountability. Even Parliament oversight was lacking. So they took majority as, you know, overriding anything, and they took it to the height and had the military go into the courts and even into the parliaments. Yeah. So that was a difficult time for us, and I don't think India, the people of India, would have tolerated a government that deals with this kind of people on their doorstep. And of course,
but as a policy, the new government, how does it balance between India and China? How does it view the whole Indian Ocean region?
China is Pacific, isn't it? So the Indian Ocean region, as I told you, you know, we want to maintain peace and security in the region, and there will be cooperation in that field. And we will always see China as not part of the Indian Ocean geographically. So as you say, we will deal with our neighbors in a neighborly way, friendly way, and hold on to the cultural and traditional ties that we have had with our neighbors.
You've had so much experience as a politician, 30 years as a member of parliament. You've seen so many governments. You've seen what's been happening. Forget from 2008 onwards, 2012 onwards, even much before that. The coalition partners, now we've seen some of them being on totally the opposite side to the MDP, to President Nasheed. How are you going to keep this coalition together?
I think we've all learned from the political experiences that we have had. We all know that Maldivians want coalitions. Since we amended the constitution, we have not had one single party winning the elections. And if we are talking about...
But no coalition has stayed together either.
No coalition
Within 100 days, some of them have...
Yeah, but then you have to understand that this is the third time that we are having elections in the country, and every time we are learning from it. So we are hoping that our coalition partners also have learned from this experience. They have always said that they want the coalition to survive, and that has been at the top leadership level. Amitabh, you will know that we've had this coalition going for last 3 years, you know, and we've lived through it. It's not very easy to come 3 years as coalition partners. So before we went into the government as well, we've had this relationship going, and we hope that the relationship will survive the next 5 years. I see a lot of political will in the leadership to make it survive. There's been many compromises. We have to have even more compromises, and we have to...
Presumably not on principles, the compromises.
Not on principle. But not only presumably, I don't think any one of us are going to give up our principles. We have we will keep our principles intact, and we will agree to disagree as well. That's what they keep on saying. You know, once with the coalition, there will be times when we won't agree, but when we won't agree also, it will be an agreement not to agree. Yeah.
You were the first woman lawyer in the Maldives. You're the first woman defense minister of the Maldives. If I look at South Asia, my history is not that.
First woman chairperson of
Exactly.
MDP as
Exactly.
well. Yes,
Exactly.
there's been a lot of firsts. Too old.
No, not at all. When you talk about defense ministers, my history is not that good, but I think you're probably the third or the fourth woman defense minister in South Asia. I mean, the current Nepalese president was a defense minister. Nirmala Sitharaman, who's our defense minister currently. Indira Gandhi may have held the defense portfolio when she was prime minister. How does that make you feel, both internally and a message that you would send to women in general, both in the Maldives and in the world?
Being the first chairperson in our party, you can only become chairperson by having a common vote in the members of the party, within the members, and they had the faith to appoint me as chairperson. Having faced elections where the constituency placed their trust on me as their member.
5 times?
4 times.
4 times.
You know, so that. And then for the president to hand me defense, like, I think gender is not an issue when I get here.
Absolutely agree with you.
They have never seen me, and I don't think even the forces would see me as incapable of
absolutely not, just the opposite. Just the opposite. Your reputation precedes you.
In the sense, like, you know, it's not been just somebody placing me in a position just to get the female vote.
Absolutely not.
I've come all this way, I've learned a lot, I've catered to the public needs, and like the MDP people call me, they call me the MDP Mama, which is the mother, you know, so with all that, I think, and I'm confident that people in Maldives see me as a person more than my gender. I've been there long enough to be that, I think. So confident.
Mariya Didi, again, thank you so much, and all the best to you and your government. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Amitabh. Thank you.